Alright, so hello everybody. In this video, we're going to be diving into one of the most fun parts of Python, which is the turtle graphics module. In this video, you're going to learn how to use the turtle module to draw on your screen using Python code. We'll walk through the basics together, just like in the PLTW e-text. Let's go ahead and let's get started. So what I've got here is the actual VS Code. So this is Visual Studio Code. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create a new file. Now in this new file, it's just going to be this untitled one file. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to name this apcsp111.py. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the keyboard shortcut Control S. That's going to allow me to save. Now what I want to go ahead and do is I'm going to bring up my documents. I'm going to go ahead and go into my teaching folder. I have this apcsp folder created in my documents. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to also go to Unit 1. Now if you don't have these folders created, while you're in the File Explorer window, what you can do is press Control-Shift-N, and that will allow you to create a new folder. If you also right-click, you can usually create a new folder as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this file into here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this other keyboard shortcut Control-A, which is going to allow me to select all. Then I'm going to press backspace so I can delete, and I have a blank file. Now as you can see up here, this is the actual file path to the Python file that I've actually got here. So let's go ahead and let's begin. So you're going to be in Trinket. As I was saying, it's trinket.io for this first one. However, I am using Visual Studio Code. This is what we're going to be using later on. So I'm going to go ahead and begin here. Now all Python files that use the turtle module are going to need the following. So let's go ahead and start by first importing turtle as TRTL. Now be very, very careful. This is case sensitive here. Now what I am doing in this is importing the turtle module. Now what is a module in Python? You could think of that as like an add-on almost, right? So what this basically is this is an actual Python file that is stored on your computer in a specific location. And basically whenever you import this file or this module, you're actually importing lots and lots of functions that we can end up later using. And actually in this next line of code, I'm going to show you one of the most important functions that we're going to be using. Okay. So what we've got to do next is we've got to create an actual instance. So create an instance of a turtle. That's basically what we want to do here, right? Now, one other thing I want to shout out here or let you all know about is I do have this pound symbol here. Now, the pound symbol in Python is how you make a comment. Basically, what that does is it ends up telling the computer, once it gets to a pound symbol, hey, skip this, don't run any of this code, all right? Now, comments, very, very highly important that we use comments always. It really helps make sure that we truly understand the code. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to create a painter variable. So anytime you have some variable equals, that's basically establishing your variable. And what I want to do is I want to use this turtle module. Now, as you can see up here, it says import turtle as TRTL. Now what this as TRTL does is it basically gives us a nickname for this turtle module. And so instead of referring to it as turtle, spelled out like that, we can refer to it as TRTL. Sometimes what students will also do is they'll import it as T. So if you had it import as T, then you would be putting T here, but because I have TRTL, I'm gonna put it there. Now, what I'm gonna also do is I'm gonna reference this function. Now, just as we said, this function is basically housed within this Python file. And what they ended up doing is they created this function so that we can create an actual turtle variable or a turtle instance, which we're referencing as painter in this case, okay? Now, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go a couple lines down. Now, what we wanna do next is I'm gonna create the window. So wn equals TRTL.screen is what we're gonna type out, just like that. Then next, we gotta do wn.main loop. Now, these 4 lines of code are basically the lines that you should always end up having for your Python file if you're using the turtle module. At one point, eventually in this course, we're no longer going to be using the turtle module. If you're not using the turtle module, you don't have to use these 4 lines. But if you are, you do. Now, one other thing that I do want to mention is painter. We will use different names for these different instances of turtles later on. At one point, you're going to create a turtle instance that's going to be an apple. And so in that case, you're going to call it apple. You can replace this variable name with whatever you'd like it to. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's run this code real quick here. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. As you can see, it's going to reference that actual file directory path here. And then if I end up bringing up this Python turtle graphics window, you can see that there's this little arrow here. Okay. So we can do different things with this little turtle. There's different functions. What I can also do is I can change the actual size of that. So we could go in here even too. We could go painter.turtle size, and then I could put down 3. So let's actually run this code. Let's save it and run it again. Now, what do you notice? What's the difference? Well, it became a whole lot bigger, right? So that's a function that we can do to our little painter turtle, right? We can change the size of it. What I could also end up doing is I could also end up changing the color of that as well, right? But we're going to hold off on that for right now. What I want to do is I want to actually get my painter to move. And so our painter, you can almost think of it as like your worker. So I could type in painter.forward and I could do 100. Now, what is this value for this 100? What's the unit of that? It's gonna be 100 pixels. And so now I can tell this painter, hey, I want you to move forward 100 pixels. Now, whenever I run this, as you can see, it started off here and then it went over, right? Now, so that's moving 100 pixels. Well, let's say that I want it to maybe do a right turn then. So what I could do is I could put right 90. Now, what's the unit of this? As you could probably guess, it's gonna be degrees. So it's gonna turn 90 degrees now, right? So let's try that again. I gotta exit out of this previous instance. It's gonna bring up a new instance, and just super quick, it went this way. And then after going forward 100 pixels, it ended up turning right 90 degrees, right? Now, just as you can imagine, maybe I want it to go down an equal distant in comparison to this line that it already drew out. Maybe I want it to go another 100 pixels down. Try to think about what we need to end up doing. We need to put right here, painter.forward. Now, another option for going forward is actually just to use .ft. So that's a little shortcut. So same as .forward, right, is .ft. So let's go ahead and run this. So we told it go forward 100 degrees, right? Remember, the turtle was facing this direction, went 100, forward 100, it turned right 90 degrees, and then it went down, right, or forward in comparison to the way that it was oriented, 100 pixels, okay? So that's how we end up getting this to move, right? So we can get it to move along here. Now, Another thing I want to keep in mind here for you all is that the turtle graphics, it actually uses a coordinate system, just like in algebra class, right? You learned about coordinate systems, where this point right here in the center is 0, 0. 0 in the x and 0 in the y, which is the center of the screen. Now the turtle always is going to start at the origin facing right by default. Now this is called having a heading of 0 degrees, okay? So what we did in there is we basically got it to turn right 90 degrees, and then we also got it to go forward 100 pixels after that, okay? So now, what I want to do in this case is I want to actually draw out a square next. All right, so I want you to ask yourself, how could we actually draw out a square? Well, couldn't we end up taking this and couldn't we end up copying this? And we could go one other time, right, where it's going to go right 90 and it's going to go 100, forward 100, and then maybe we could do it again, right? So we've got 1, we've got 2, 3, 4. Let's see what ends up happening here if we run this. And as you can see, we ended up going and basically created a square. Now, as you can imagine, this is a whole lot of repetition, right? And what we just had to do is we had to repeat that 4 times. Now, do you think that there's a more efficient way to end up going through and doing this? Yes, there is. And what we can end up using is what are called loops. Now, what I'm going to use in here is going to be called a for loop. That's what we're going to end up using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this to repeat 4 times. So what I can write out is for I, which is index. So for the index in range. And then what I can do is I can put in here 4. Now, what is this? This is going to be the amount of times we're going to repeat this action, right? So in this case, it's going to end up repeating these actions 4 times of whatever I have actually in this for loop. Now what I can do is I can highlight these 2 lines of code. I can press tab. Now you can see that that is indented. And so what it's going to do is it's going to repeat these 2 commands 4 times, right? So let's try this out now. Let's see if this ends up working as intended. And just as you can see, it did end up working as intended. What ended up happening is the computer got to this for loop and said for I in range of 4. Now the range of 4 is going to be from 0 to 4 not included. So it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I end up actually going in here, we can actually do this. I can use a print statement is what this is called. And what I can do is I can actually print out the value of I. So what you're going to end up seeing down here is it's going to end up showing us 0, 1, 2, 3. And what's going to be happening is while it's in that 0, it's going to go first forward 100 pixels, turn right 90. Then it's going to go back to the top here, print out the next index, which is 1. It's going to go forward 100 pixels, turn right 90. Then it's going to go back up to here. It's going to print out 2, go forward, turn right 90. Then it's going to go back up here to the top, print out 3, go forward, and then turn right 90 once again. Okay, so this is how you can end up using a for loop. Okay, now what I said at the beginning of this is that we could also change the painter color. So let's say that we wanted to tell our painter, hey, you know what, you've actually got to be blue. You've got to be coloring this out in blue is what we want you to do. So what this is going to do is it's going to change the color of the square to be blue. Okay. So I'm going to do Control S. Remember, we always want to consistently be saving as we're working through these and making any significant changes in our code. I'm going to go ahead and run this. And so now, as we can see, instead of having a black square, we now have a blue square. Now, why is that? That is because of the fact that we ended up changing that pen color to be blue in there. Okay, so now what I also want to end up doing, let's say that we also wanted to create a circle in here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to first comment this out on this portion right here right now. What am I going to do? I'm going to say draw a square using a for loop. That's what we're going to do. And then next what I want to do is I'm going to say draw a circle. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to draw a circle after I've drawn that square. Now let's go ahead and let's use this command here. So painter.circle. And then what I can do is I can type in a value in here. So let's say that we put down 50. Okay, I'm going to press Control S, save this. Now let's go ahead and let's run our code. Let's see what ends up happening here. Check it out. So what just happened, we ended up having a circle that was drawn out, right? Now, in terms of this value of 50, try to think, what is that value? Now, you might be looking at this square, which has a side length of 100 pixels, and you might be thinking, Mr. Rainbolt, that looks like that's going about 50 pixels in, about halfway that distance, right, of that square. So what you're probably thinking is, this is creating a circle that has a radius of 50. If you're thinking that, then you're absolutely correct, okay? Now, we now know that this is the radius value of the circle. Let's say, what if I want to draw a red circle, though? So I want to have a blue square, and then I want to have a red circle. Well, what do you think we'd have to do in comparison to what we have up here? Well, we had painter.pen color. So what I can do is I can go in here and then I can tell the painter, hey, I want you to be red during this part. Okay, so I can put in red in here, just like that in quotes. This is called a string is what we're putting in here. And so now I can press Control S and then I can run this. Now, as we can see, boom, it ended up changing the color of that square, right? Or of that circle. So now we have that. Now let's say maybe you don't want the circle to be rendered right here. Maybe you want it to be somewhere like over here, right? So let's say that it's still gonna be on the origin 0, but maybe it's like 30 pixels over here to the left. So as you can imagine on a coordinate system, this would be -30, 0. So what we can end up doing is we can use some different commands to actually change the location of that turtle. And what we can end up doing is we can actually use painter.goto. And then what I could do is I could specify, hey, I want you to go to -30 in the x-axis, and I want you to retain that position in the y-axis though. So I don't want you to go up at all, I don't want you to go down. And so what this is going to do is it's going to make our painter turtle instance move to -30, 0, those coordinates. Move, so let's do this, move to the coordinates -30 and 0. So let's go ahead and let's run this. Now, as you can see, we've got it where, okay, we do that circle of 50 pixels is the radius of that, and then we move over negative 30. What I want to do is I want to move this guy over a whole lot more, and what I also want to do differently is instead of having to draw the circle and then move the turtle there, I want to actually move the turtle first over here and then draw the circle. Another thing I want to specify is I don't like how it drew out this line for us. I want it to actually pick up the pen, right? And so we're going to end up using a specific function name for that as well, okay? So just as we said, we got to think sequentially here. So in terms of drawing that red circle, first, I want the painter to move, right? We want the painter to move first. Then I want to end up changing that color, right? Now, if I end up doing this first where I have it move and then I have it change the color, it's still going to end up drawing that, right? So just as I was saying, first we want it to actually go pin up. So you can draw this out as, or you can write this out as pin up, just like this. Another option you can use is just PU, which stands for pin up. So PU or .pin up will pick up the pin. And so that will ensure that we're not actually drawing anything out. Now we can go to these coordinates, and then what we can do next is we can do painter.pd, which stands for, as you probably guessed, PD or .pin down. And so this will place the pin down so that we can draw again. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and change the pin color, and then I can actually draw out my circle here. Okay, now one other thing that I want to do is maybe I want to move this a little bit even further. So let's go negative 300. Let's see what ends up happening here. So now let's look at this. So we drew out our square, and then now we've got our circle all the way over there. Okay, so what we just ended up doing is we created a drawing using code. Every line we wrote was a part of an algorithm, which is a step-by-step set of instructions that solves a problem. The computer followed our instructions exactly as we had them written, right? And it was sequential, meaning it went from the top down. So Turtle drew out exactly what we told it to. So this is the same thinking that we use when we build apps, games, or websites, small steps that add up to big results. Please make sure that you do end up saving your work, so you can press Control S here, and be sure to copy your code or download it if Trinket allows you to. Also, don't forget to share your creation as directed by myself in our Canvas assignment. Great job, and keep exploring and see what you can do with this code. See y'all later.